Why, hello, and welcome to another episode of Why You Should Play. I hope that your start to this new year has been as pleasant as it has been for me to make this video with the help of my many lovely friends. This was a hell of a year for gaming. How do I know this? Well, PlayStation discovered fun twice, and Ubisoft even discovered what a good game is. Or maybe even two games? More on that later. It was also a big year for remakes of beloved Japanese games, with Silent Hill 2, Dragon Quest III, Persona 3, and Dragon's Dogma. RGG released another Yakuza game and have another one coming very soon. In fact, since the start of this video, they probably already released even another one. Additionally, it was a huge year for Italian-named games in Balatro and Metaphor Rifantatio. As for me, well, I sure as hell enjoyed being a glorious space marine ridding the galaxy of the Tyranid and heretic scum, and donning the fedora and cracking the whip on the even bigger scum that are fascists. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, folks, human beings, any and all sentient creatures, I was Cloud, Strife, and Gang once again. Except now I was in Calm, and the Golden Saucer, and Cosmo Canyon. Moreover, I was Nanaki, Watcher of Cosmo Canyon, and Son of Seto, Protector of our Veil. Do you have any idea? Yes, I enjoyed that there. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth video game very much. But enough about the big games and my yapping. As is custom, it's time for some friends of mine to yap about games they thought were underrated or went underappreciated. So without further ado, this is Why You Should Play 2024.
Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess is the soul of Clover Studios revived, is what I would be saying if Hideki Kamiya hadn't announced recently at the Game Awards he was reviving the legendary short-lived game studio that was known to put out some wonderful cult classics back on the PlayStation 2, like Okami, God Hand, and the Beautiful Joe series. Which Kunitsu-Gami is just that, a wonderful new Capcom IP that evokes the memories of an era of lost experimentation of larger publishers like Capcom releasing weird experimental genre hybrid games in the 2000s. Kunitsu-Gami being a crossover between character action hack-and-slash games like Onimusha meets real-time defense strategy of Pikmin, but with samurai and demonic spirits, or as the game's website describes it as, Kagura action strategy game. Set in a place named Mount Kafuku, home of the goddess, is plagued by the defilement, a corrupt source of demonic power sweeping the land and its people with it. You play as a guardian named So, who is to protect the life of maiden Yoshiro and use the power of the mask to help free the villagers and its land to take back from this evil. Your main objective is to get her from point A to B through these villages and terrain without her getting hurt, saving villagers and clearing the defilement and the enemies known as the Seethe in the process. This beautifully bold mix of two unlikely genres coming together superfluously in Capcom's best title they've released for me since Devil May Cry 5, and their most original title in years. Hats off to longtime Capcom dev and now director Shuichi Kawata, whose work at Capcom dates as far back as to games like Resident Evil 4, and even worked on other cult series like Tenchu. If you're a fan of games like Okami, especially, I can't think of a game that is what I would describe as the sister game to it. Borrowing a lot of familiar, beautifully striking imagery and atmosphere from that game, but imagine all of those pretty colors with more grotesquely vibrant monsters in the mix. It's clearly inspired by Okami, even to the point of having themed outfits for the characters in which you can dress So as Amaterasu and Yoshiro as Waka. I obviously did. And you can even change the game's original soundtrack to Okami's OST as well as a bonus, though I strongly recommend this game's luscious soundtrack composed by Chikara Aoshima. This is certainly a game that deserves more attention, as with recent AAA video game studios don't often release such weird and genuinely fantastic video games like Kunitsu-Gami very often anymore, and your support of it might send a message to Capcom to take more risks again as a publisher. I can talk about this game all day and there's so much I didn't cover, but to keep this short, I hope your holidays were wonderful and a happy new year, my Mountain Dew Code Red drinking, Dorito munching gamers. I can't wait to see what new experiences lie just ahead beyond. Till next time, video games forever.
Hello, this is Frog again. Dungeons of Hinterberg, developed by Microbird Games, was exactly what I was looking for during a time of uncertainty. The game stars a woman named Louisa who travels to Hinterberg to explore magical dungeons that have popped up in the area. While the fantastical nature of the region was a large appeal to her, through playing the game you understand her main drive, to escape from her life as a lawyer. Louisa as a protagonist resonates particularly because of her candid criticisms of her own life and her feelings of being trapped in the life that she made for herself. She put all the hard work to achieve her dreams and get the job she thought she wanted, but by the time she set foot in her new law firm, she realized she could not stand being a lawyer. As someone who graduated from college the year prior with a degree I lost passion in halfway through, she was the kind of protagonist I needed to help come to terms with my feelings of wasting my formative years of my life. And the game does a fantastic job at exploring her character. As a game, it was also exactly what I was looking for as someone who was not as in love with the recent Zelda games. While Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdoms were both very impressive, they lacked in traditional 3D dungeons that I grew to love over the years. Dungeons of Hinterberg filled that void for me by creating many mini-dungeons that retained the traditional Zelda spirit. Each one was incredibly satisfying to explore and achieved that perfect balance of puzzle solving and combat. The time between dungeons was also filled with Persona-light social building. While the system and Dungeons of Hinterberg is nowhere near as strict, it adds enough to make that downtime enjoyable and to create a natural way to expand the story and the various characters around town. The game explores the complexity of tourism in a surprisingly balanced way, and the various social links help emphasize that as well. To end this ramble, Dungeons of Hinterberg was the right game at the right time for this silly little frog. While others may not connect to it in the same way I did, I feel it is absolutely worth checking out. Sometimes a nice vacation in the mountains is all you kinda need. Thank you for letting me on again. Bye-bye.
Hello, Whispers. Moki Moki here to bring attention to one of the greatest games of 2024, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Lorelei was developed by the Swedish indie studio Simogo, who had previously released 2019's Sayonara Wild Hearts to much critical success. While Sayonara was an epically stylized action rhythm game and playable album, Lorelei takes the studio into an entirely new direction. Lorelei is an equally as stylish, story-driven puzzle box taking place within a dangerously mysterious hotel. With the unbiasedly perfect decision to utilize the gorgeous perspectives of fixed camera angles, Lorelei creates stunning tableaus of black, gray, and white backgrounds with some heavy red accents that really give the game a distinct visual feel. However, a puzzle box is nothing without its puzzles, and Lorelei provides such a wide variety and depth of puzzles I couldn't possibly list every single type that will be encountered. From math problems, riddles, pattern recognition, cipher decoding, astrology, programming, and much more, all these puzzles are so perfectly intertwined with the hotel's architecture. The game keeps an organized journal for yourself so that all points of interest in puzzles can be remembered. However, I myself had to utilize a side pad of paper to keep my own notes down on potential clues, solution, and thoughts on where the narrative might be leading. Simulating the design of a more traditional survival horror title, the hotel in Lorelei's is maze-like in nature and provides the player multiple branches at all times for progression. Being able to attempt multiple puzzles at once is super helpful for avoiding frustrations. If you're getting stumped in one direction, you can just head over to some other place and try and solve the puzzles there. The narrative is equally as elusive and brain-tickling as the puzzles. Without delving into any spoilers, Lorelei was able to present surprising twists and turns to its story and characters that are worth investing in as you unravel the hotel's mysteries. The team did an excellent job interweaving the story reveals and puzzles themselves together, all ramping up to an epic finale of puzzles and prose that will leave a lasting impact on anyone who dares attempt to solve the secrets of the Hotel Letzitz Yar. It is impossible to capture the true wonder contained in Lorelei and the Laser Eyes merely through some clips and a heavy showering of praise on my part, so please take some time to experience this incredibly crafted work for yourself.
The game I wanted to shout out, as I think it has gone very underappreciated, is SteamWorld Heist 2, a brilliant tactics game in the multi-genre SteamWorld franchise that I think everybody who is a fan of XCOM, Fire Emblem and the likes should experience. Don't let the cartoony art style and the 2D sides perspective fool you. The game delivers really satisfying and in-depth turn-based tactics gameplay that is elevated even further with the cool job system and the aiming mechanics. Where in other tactics games your shots are usually based on chance, in SteamWorld Heist 2 you will shoot where you aim, and what makes the game truly brilliant is the ability to ricochet bullets. Bullets will bounce off surfaces, so with careful planning and good aim, you can hit enemies behind cover to create incredible organic gameplay moments that can be very hype. And if you think that already sounds like a full game, you would be wrong, as there is a total other side of the game that happens in the world map while you travel from mission to mission. You control your own submarine, battling enemies and discovering secrets and treasures on the map, and there are even some minor Metroidvania mechanics where you gain upgrades to your submarine to access new areas. The world map gameplay brings fun additions to the game and keeps the whole experience fresh. And if you're wondering, the first SteamWorld Heist is a good game as well, but this sequel is just so much better in every way, and you can just jump straight into this without having played the first game or other games in the SteamWorld franchise. There are only a couple minor references to previous games, but nothing major. So, give the game a shot. I'm pretty confident you will enjoy it. Thank you and have a great day.
Hello, Wispies. Do y'all call yourselves Wispies? I'm gonna call you Wispies. Anyway, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you why you should play Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. Most of you may remember that this was a Kickstarter game from the original creators of the Suikoden or Suikoden series over in Konami, and they wanted to make a new game. They got a boatload of funding on it, and they created this game very much in the vein of Suikoden 1 and 2 on PlayStation 1. So there were 3 games on the PS2, but they definitely drew their inspiration from those first 2 games. And if you've played either of those games, which are getting re-released in 2025, then you know a lot to expect here. You're going to have a boatload of characters, town to build up. You're going to have a pretty fun traditional battle system with some combination attacks and whatnot. But like most of these revivals that we see out there, they did modernize a little bit, which was very nice. So for starters, the battle system now has a timing aspect to it, so you can like create stronger attacks if you're willing to let your meter build up and whatnot. So I do very much like that change, along with how they changed the magic system. The magic system was pretty notoriously broken in the original games, with how the fact that they didn't use magic points and whatnot. So they've definitely improved on that. I think they've also improved on the recruiting mechanic as well. They do give you a character now that kind of helps you point in the right direction, as opposed to, some very weird esoteric ways to find characters in the first 2 games. Luckily, there's no weird time-gated ones like there was in Suikoden 2. That made that game needlessly stressful. But anyway, so you're going to have all the stuff that you really loved about those games if you played them. And if you've never played them, this is an excellent entry point. Like I said, story is fine. You're taking on an evil empire. Great, awesome. The town building is really what you're here for, and the combat. And the town building is very good this time around. You build up a ton of stuff there. Huge town. Ton of mini games too, all entirely optional. I was pretty partial to the card game, actually. That was really fun. Either way, that is why you should play this game. And just to give you a heads up, there was a prequel, Eiyuden Chronicles Rising. Absolutely skippable. There's very little that has to do with it. A few of the characters come back, a few of them show up, but you're not even going to the place that's involved there. It's basically just kind of a precursor of an inevitable thing. Skip it. You don't need to worry about it. Go play Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. Fantastic game.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Johnny Waffles here with the game that I think went underlooked, underappreciated, and that you should definitely play from 2024. And that game is Ultros. Now, Ultros is it's a Metroidvania, but it operates in a way that's different than other Metroidvanias. This is more of a puzzle-based Metroidvania, which is not par for the course at all. Usually Metroidvanias, Guacamelee, Hollow Knight, stuff like that, you're fighting enemies. And while there are enemies to fight in Ultros, it really wants you to think outside the box and accomplish certain tasks by not engaging in combat, which is so unique in this day and age, especially for a genre like a Metroidvania. Now, what people immediately notice about Ultros is the visual style, the psychedelic visuals, the art style that it presents, and I think it's beautiful, gorgeous art. I love these kind of neon colors that you see in this game. It's so full of color and life, this world that they build. If you only played the game just for the visuals, I wouldn't fault you at all. It's still a very, very fun game to play. Again, problem solving, trying to figure out ways to accomplish certain tasks without engaging in combat too much. There are certain aspects or certain moments where you do have to engage in combat, of course, but for the most part, everything you can solve is something that you can do without any combat, which is, again, so unique in this genre. So this game typically is going to take you, 10 to 15 hours if you're just kind of plowing through it. I love to explore. It took me about 25 hours to do everything, get the platinum trophy. I just got really immersed in this game and wanted to see everything there was to see in this game, so it took me a little while longer. The fun thing about this game is it's kind of a roguelite too, where certain things that you do in one run can affect what happened in another run. So if you were to, let's say it uses plants as kind of a basis for kind of everything with problem solving and planting things and watching things grow. So if you plant, and this is going to sound a little weird, it's kind of like a time loop thing as well. So if in one run you plant a plant in the ground, in your next run that plant will have grown, allowing you to access other areas. So it's really clever in that aspect. Again, I can't really recommend this game enough if you enjoy Metroidvanias, if you enjoy puzzles in video games, and you enjoy beautiful art and music. The soundtrack is very good as well. Very mellow. I admittedly have kind of fallen asleep a couple times while playing this game just because the soundtrack is so mellow and you're not constantly doing combat. It's just kind of a relaxing, I don't know if relaxing is the right word for it. It's a kind of a calming experience to play this game, and unless you're really hyper focused on trying to figure out puzzles, just exploring, you're gonna just kind of chill out a bit, and maybe that's what the game is going for. I don't know. But I recommend playing Ultros. Great game, great atmosphere, great visual style, great soundtrack. Definitely check it out. You won't regret it.
Momodora Moonlit Farewell. This was the latest Metroidvania by Bomb Service in their Momodora series, which has been about 5 games now, I think. The first being essentially Flash games. First and foremost, the art in this game is gorgeous. It's 16-bit pixel style and packed with detail and love. This alone is why everyone should play it. It's just a treat on the eyes from start to end. Thankfully, the gameplay is also solid, simple but smooth. None of us are fans of these games because they bring something revolutionary to the genre. They're just plain solid games. The movement is zippy, the maps are enjoyable to navigate, the hit effects are satisfying, and there's a nice little upgrade system to create deadly little effects. It's very nice. The narrative elements are light, but they do a good job setting a mood to your time in the game, and that's what this game is top to bottom. A good mood. A vibe. I really like it, and I want to see more people give it a shot.
So Atlas came out with quite a few games this year, but let me tell you all about the best game that they released this year, and that is Unicorn Overlord. Now, Unicorn Overlord is kind of a weird game to talk about. It's not going to appeal to a lot of people because it's real-time strategy while also being turn-based in a way. So the gameplay, the best way to describe it is you have a bunch of units. At some point you can get up to 60, I believe, units you control, which sounds like a lot, but the game does a great job of slowly introducing you to the mechanics. But you basically set up your little army with a bunch of different characters, and you can set their abilities before you go into battle, like what you want them to do, and then they will do it. And each unit has different strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, I just think it's a really fun game to try to play. It's not going to be for everybody, like I said, but it's vanillaware, so the graphics and art style are gorgeous. The characters are great. That was really the strong point here. The story is very classic Fire Emblem, which everybody knows how much I love the Fire Emblem games, but this game just really appealed to me, and it took me over 90 hours to play, which is going to scare a lot of people off, but I also played on a harder difficulty, so it might not take you as long as I did, but it was definitely the longest game I've played this year, and I never really got tired of it at all either. It just kept getting better and better. I also have to talk about the world map in the game because they do a great job of just giving you a big world to explore, and you can go around and collect items, and you can build up villages that get destroyed by the other armies, and you want to do this because it ends up getting you points that you can use to promote or upgrade the amount of units you can use, which you obviously need later in the game. You have to, or you can leave a unit there to protect the village, which also gives you points just from the days passing. So it was definitely just a fun back and forth between the world map and the gameplay and the character interactions. There's a bunch of bonding events, and then you have to choose a waifu at the end, of course. There's so many different characters to choose from, but yeah, don't sleep on Unicorn Overlord. It's definitely my game of the year this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to an unforgettable gaming experience, Granblue Fantasy Relink. Imagine this, you step into a breathtaking sky realm, a world full of mystery, magic, and danger. Relink introduces you to an abundance of heroes that take on massive bosses, uncover ancient secrets, and you can fight to protect the world from chaos. Let's start off with some of the characters. For example, we have Siegfried, the stoic knight known as the Dragon Slayer. I loved his raw strength and his disciplined swordplay. It makes him a force to be reckoned with on the front lines. I also really enjoyed Percival. He's considered the Lord of Flames, whose fiery attacks devastate enemies while his underlying, unyielding sense of honor inspires his allies. And then there's Zeta, the fearless lancer. Her incredible agility and spear techniques are perfect for those who like to get up close and personal in combat. She also can break the game, let's be serious. Zeta is OP. Some of the boss battles are absolutely insane. There's a fearsome Colossus that has molten cores that light up the battlefield. It was an absolute stunner to fight. Some of the bosses are just absolutely insane. We have Tiamat, who's like a giant wind beast who will like float up in the air. He'll send you flying through the air, and if you don't have teamwork and strategy, you are really going to struggle. One of the more underrated aspects of this game is going on these hunt missions with other people online. I really got into that. And it's just a really fun time to just run around with 3 other people, whether you're friends or randoms, and just go through these vast worlds. What really makes the game special to me is how each character feels alive. Their personalities shine through both the combat and story moments. It really makes you care about their journey. The multiplayer mode lets you team up with friends, like I said. You can explore the different dungeons, take on bosses, and you can unleash these insane combo attacks that when you see them, you're going to be like, wow, I want to see them all. So, you might be asking yourself, why should you play Granblue Fantasy Relink? It's not just a game, it's an adventure. It's a chance to dive into a world of excitement, challenge, and camaraderie. I really think you should play this game. It is extremely underrated. I really loved it. Thanks, guys.
I think that Skull and Bones is one of the most underappreciated games of 2024. Now, full disclosure, I played Skull and Bones at launch and paid full price for it as a result of losing a bet. But I chose this as a punishment to said bet because part of me had a level of interest in Skull and Bones leading up to it finally releasing early in 2024. So I think Skull and Bones is underappreciated because it is a game that is in a unique open world setting. It has unique open world mechanics, and I think it builds upon the best aspects of what is seen as one of the greatest games in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which of course is Black Flag, and to a different extent Assassin's Creed Rogue and Assassin's Creed 3. Skull and Bones is not a perfect game. There's a lot wrong with it, but I just think the ship combat is so much fun. There's so many different layers of customization that you can do with your ship from both an offensive, defense perspective, and when it comes to visual customization. Same goes for your sailor as well as all of your crew. It's just the sort of game that you can get lost in for a long time. And I really don't think we have enough pirate games, sailing games, sea-based games, so I think Skull and Bones is worth a look. It's a game that has been very well supported since its launch, despite not selling all that well. And I think more people should play it because even after you finish the main campaign, which is probably going to take you about 40 to 60 hours, there's lots to do afterwards, whether that's part of the vanilla base game or some of the additional world events that they've added, or bosses, or cosmetics that you can go out and grind for. And it's got a good community too. Like, there's been a couple times where I've jumped in and I've just randomly thrown in the chat, is anybody want to do anything? And there's always people out there willing to sail with you, help you with stuff, and you help them, and it's so much more fun with people. But again, it's really fun solo. I think this game was underappreciated for a few reasons. First off, I think people kind of look down on it because people look down on most Ubisoft games. That's just kind of the reputation that Ubisoft has got. I don't think Yves Guillemot did himself any favors when he referred to it as a quadruple A game a couple of weeks before it launched. And obviously, its development cycle was an absolute meme. So I think a lot of people trashed on this game, but I don't think a lot of those people actually played it. So I definitely think if you're looking for a fun open world game with a bit of a unique twist, then Skull and Bones is worth checking out. It's really cheap now too, so it's really, really good value. So that's my pick for most underappreciated game of 2024.